ETSB, May 11, 2020 to order. Can I get a roll call, please?
Hello. Yeah, I'm in the middle of
Noonan,
Here.
Okay.
Franz,
Hi.
Here.
Andalcio,
Here.
Bilodeau,
Here.
Connolly,
Here.
Eckhoff,
Here.
Kruger, Moranowitz,
Adam, it's Chief Shar now instead of Chief Kruger. I'm sorry.
oh really? Okay. Shar,
I am here. I'm
Okay.
here, thank
Moranowitz. He hasn't been replaced, right?
No.
Okay. Renahan,
Here.
Tetmeyer,
Here.
Teams,
Here.
Tillman.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay. All right, I am advised we do not have anybody sign in for public comment. We'll move on to chairman's remarks. First, I would like to just express my appreciation to all the telecommunicators out there, the first responders, doctors, nurses, and healthcare professionals during this these crazy times, I guess we'll call it, during the pandemic. So I just, again, I'm out there on the front line as well as some of our members here. And it's completely different. Nobody ever expected that we'd have to deal with something like this. But again, I just want to just express my appreciation to everybody throughout this entire process. Secondly, member Joe Moranowitz is not here. I do want to recognize that he retired recently last week as a deputy chief from the Addison Police Department. Joe Moranowitz served 20 years with the Addison Police Department, and again retired in the position of deputy chief. Joe Moranowitz recently unanimously was voted in as their new village manager for the village of Addison. So if anybody has any correspondence with Joe, if you can congratulate him when you get a chance. Also, this week is National Police Week. It started yesterday, May 10th, and it runs all the way through May 16th. Unfortunately, there are a lot of activities that had occurred in Washington, D.C. and throughout various states. And unfortunately, all these events had been canceled because of the pandemic. Next, as you have heard, I'd like to welcome Winfield Chief of Police, David Shar. He is replacing Chief Kruger from Oak Brook. Everyone could welcome Chief Shar. Glad to have you on board. Next, I have two resolutions I would like to read. And as Chairman Dan Cronin from the County Board always said, these are the resolutions where we always say whereas about 40 times. So the first item is going to be 19-20-26, a resolution acknowledging April 12th through the 18th, 2020 as National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week. I'll begin the resolution here. Whereas since 1991, public safety telecommunicators have been nationally recognized for their service and role in public safety, and whereas the week of April 12th through 18th, 2020 will be celebrated as National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week to recognize all public safety communications professionals who provide a central link to the public safety services on which our citizens rely every day. And whereas two-page ETSB has the oversight for 3 public safety answering points, PSAPs, including Addison Consolidated Dispatch Center, ACDC, PSAP, DuPage Public Safety Communications, DUCOM, PSAP, DuPage Sheriff's Office, PSAP. For the enhanced 911 systems servicing more than 932,708 residents of the county of DuPage and portions of Cook, Kane, and Will counties. And whereas these 134 public safety telecommunicators are the first and most critical enhanced 911 contact to the public our citizens have with emergency services. And whereas these 134 public safety telecommunicators engage in the operation of emergency response systems have a duty to respond to over 3 million 10-digit dial and 911 telephone calls from the general public for police, fire, and emergency medical assistance. And whereas these 134 public safety telecommunicators dispatch said assistance to help save the lives and property of our citizens contribute substantially to the apprehension of criminals, suppression of fires, and treatment of patients. And whereas these 134 public safety telecommunicators are an integral connection to interoperability of the DuPage 911 system for communication with our first responders by expertly monitoring their activities, providing them information, and ensuring their safety. And whereas these 134 public safety telecommunicators always and especially in these unprecedented times of a global pandemic are acknowledged as providing an essential service to our community with unwavering commitment to public safety, dispatching, consistent quality and customer service, and the continued pursuit of our goal of protecting life and property while maintaining the highest level of professionalism 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Can I get a motion?
So moved. Second.
Okay, all those in favor state aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed, motion passes. Next item is the second resolution. This one's a resolution acknowledging the contribution of Chief James Kruger to the Emergency Telephone System Board of DuPage County. Whereas the Emergency Telephone System Board of DuPage County, here and thereafter referred to as DuPage ETSB, is an emergency telephone system board established pursuant to section 15.4 of the Local Government Emergency Telephone System Act, 50 ILCS 750/15.4, herein the act. And whereas DuPage ETSB has oversight of the enhanced 911 systems, which is a critical and valued state-of-the-art tool for the expeditious response of public safety to citizen requests for emergency service for citizens of the county of DuPage and portions of Cook, Kane, and Will counties. And whereas Chief James Kruger was appointed member representative for the DuPage Chiefs of Police Association for a term commencing December 12th, 2017 through April 2nd, 2020, serving with diligence and resolve, exercising fiscal responsibility in the furtherance of the best available technology for the protection of enhanced 911 first responders, telecommunicators, and the community at large. And whereas Chief Kruger played a key role in the support and passage of the 911 State Reform Bill in 2017, SB 985, as an ETS board member and as president of the DuPage Chiefs of Police Association and the Illinois Chiefs of Police Association. Chief Kruger held press conferences and attended many legislative sessions in Springfield, working to garner support from state legislators and fellow law enforcement executives across the state of Illinois for the major reforms. And that included an increase in the surcharge from 87 cents to $1.50. And whereas Chief Kruger has served DuPage ETSB representative for DuPage Chiefs of Police Association, participating in various committees, including the Intergovernmental Agreement Committee for the DuPage Justice Information System, also referred to as DUJUS, project for a countywide computer-aided dispatch, field-based reporting, and law enforcement report writing. And whereas Chief Kruger has served DuPage ETSB representative, the DuPage Chiefs of Police Association, leading the request to enhance the DuPage Emergency Dispatch Interoperable Radio System to include GPS for unit status and location information, making the 911 system more efficient for closed unit to dispatch and improving officer safety deployed in 2018 through 2019. Now, therefore, I, Sean Noonan, Chairman, along with the DuPage Emergency Telephone System Board members and staff, thank Chief Kruger for his leadership and service to the community and to this board, expressing our gratitude on behalf of the citizens, telecommunicators, and first responders of the DuPage ETSB Enhanced 911 System. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Next item is going to be members' remarks. Do we have any remarks from any of our members? Okay, hearing none. We'll move on to the consent agenda. Under monthly staff reports, I'll entertain a motion to approve 19-20-33 monthly report for May 11th, special call meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Under revenue report 911 surcharge funds, I'll entertain a motion to approve 19-20-27 ETSB revenue report for April 14th, regular meeting for Fund 5820 equalization.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Continuing under revenue report 911 surcharge funds, I'll entertain a motion to approve 19-20-31 ETSB revenue report for May 11th, special call meeting for Fund 5820 equalization.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Under minutes approval policy advisory committee, I'll entertain a motion to approve emergency telephone system board regular meeting Tuesday, March 3rd, 2020.
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor state aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. And minutes approval ETS board, I'll entertain a motion to approve emergency telephone system board regular meeting Tuesday, March 10th, 2020.
So moved. Motion. Second.
Okay, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor state aye.
Aye.
Nay, motion passes. Under purchase resolutions, we'll entertain a motion to approve ETS R 3320, awarding resolution to CDW Government LLC PO 920120 for Solar Winds Network Performance Monitor and Solar Winds Network Configuration Manager licenses. Total amount not to exceed $64,102.68.
Mr. Chairman, please note for the record, I'll be abstaining from this vote.
Member Indelcio, abstaining. Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. I'll entertain a motion to approve ETSR 3620, awarding resolution to Dell Marketing LP PO 920122 for 25 CAD computer replacements in the PSAPs. Total amount $25,268.25.
Mr. Chairman, I will also be abstaining from this vote.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor state aye. Opposed, nay.
Aye.
Motion passes. I'll entertain a motion to approve ETSR 3920, awarding resolution to Enritsu America Sales Company, PO 920125 for a replacement handheld spectrum analyzer. Total amount $24,729.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Under budget transfers, I'll entertain a motion to approve ETSR 3220 budget transfer for the Emergency Telephone System Board of DuPage County for fiscal year 2019 from 5820-54100. IT equipment to 5820-53807. Software maintenance agreements to adjust funding for the first year of Hexagon maintenance. Total budget transfer $480,000.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, just given this is almost $500,000, Linda, just maybe a quick summary of what this really means.
It's administrative, so it's a recommendation from the auditor's office and finance to move it under this category. It was already in the budget.
So this is how we'll be paying for maintenance costs in the future through this line item.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. We'll entertain a motion to approve ETSR 3720 budget transfer for the Emergency Telephone System Board of DuPage County for fiscal year 2020 from 4000-5820-53828 contingencies to 4000-5820-54110 equipment and machinery for the procurement of a replacement spectrum analyzer. Total budget transfer $21,000.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Okay, under milestones, I'll entertain a motion for the recommendation to table this item as final testing is not complete due to social distancing.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second on to table this item. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion to table passes. Under payment of claims, I'll entertain a motion to approve 19-20-28. I'm looking for a motion to amend for the previous item for tabled Purvis milestone 22 in the amount of $154,751.62. The new POC total of $399,022.25. Motion to amend.
So
Make a
moved.
motion. Second it.
Any discussion?
We're modifying it because we didn't, down to a lower number because we didn't approve the milestone.
Correct.
That's the math. Right.
Yes.
Wait, didn't we just table this?
We tabled C.
Yeah, C1 we tabled.
Sorry, got it. Okay.
Ain't everything but.
When you subtract the money from C1 from D1, that's the new number.
Okay, got it.
Right? Okay, can I get a motion to amend? Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor state aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion to amend passes. Second item under payment of claims, I'll entertain a motion to approve 19-20-32 payment of claims for May 11, 2020 for FY20. Total for 4,000-5820 equalization, $540,169.45.
So
So
moved.
moved. Second.
Okay, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor state aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Change orders. I'll entertain a motion to approve ETS CO 13-20, a resolution approving change order number 4 to DUCOM, PO 950-850 /1071-1 to encumber additional funds through the end of the contract to include radio TDMA programming costs. Total amount $58,333.35. The new contract amount $1,163,459.35.
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor state aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion passes. I'll entertain a motion to approve ETS CO 14-20, resolution approving change order number 23 to AT&T Inc., PO 950905 /2031-1 to encumber additional funds in the county finance software for payment of monthly CPE network invoices. Total amount $270,000. The new contract amount $4,797,888.99. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
Yeah, I got a quick question. So is this a change order or just a transfer of funds? I mean, are we changing the contract price?
So first, I just have to say that Eve did a phenomenal job. If you look at the documentation backing this up, there were multiple accounts here that had to be married up and changed as we move from one building to the other. So the change orders adjusting that amount and encumbering the appropriate amount of funds. But she was really on top of this. And if you look at the backup documentations, made sure we weren't paying more than we should have. So it's just clean up over several years of time getting it into the new buildings.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor state aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion passes. I'll entertain a motion to approve ETS CO 15-20, affirming resolution to approve change order number 15, PO 950900/1914-1 to Intergraph Corporation, DBA Hexagon Safety and Infrastructure, a Delaware corporation, for the addition of maintenance on the federal NIBRS reporting license, non-monetary change order.
So move.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor state aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Under resolutions, I'll entertain a motion to approve ETSR 34-20, resolution declaring equipment, inventory, and/or property listed on Exhibit A purchased by the Emergency Telephone System Board of DuPage County as surplus equipment.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
I just had a question. There was a lot of stuff listed. Do we sell all this?
So technically, everything is property of the county. By declaring it surplus, we turn it over to the county, and then the county works through any selling and brings that funding back to us.
How much?
A lot of this is end-of-life equipment. It may or may not be useful.
So not that much money. Not that, we don't get that much money?
I'm sorry, say it again?
We don't get that much money then?
We could. It's just going to depend on what the market value is.
Okay. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor state aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion passes. I'll entertain a motion to approve ETSR 352-20, First Amendment to the Intergovernmental Agreement between DuPage Public Safety Communications, DUCOM, and the County of DuPage, Illinois, on behalf of the Emergency Telephone System Board for the DuPage Emergency Dispatch Interoperable Radio System.
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion?
Chairman?
Hearing none, all those in favor state aye.
We had a question.
Oh, question, Julie?
Yeah, I did. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just had a question. I guess, Linda, is it 100,000? Is that how it's been in the past? Like, what is the difference between this and what we've had going?
The difference is we had an annual amount that was shown. So it started around 200,000 and progressively went forward year after year. And it was 5 years.
Linda, you have to unmute yourself, Linda.
I know what I was saying was so good too. Sorry about that.
It was because I heard it.
So this was previously a 5-year intergovernmental agreement with an incremental increase every year and up to the 250 to 290 that we're paying in this final year. Member Tiger and I agree that there's some language that needs to be worked out based on what we know today. And we had not gotten to all of those items. So what we're proposing right now is a time and material not to exceed 100,000 while we work out those details. You have a memo from the board on discussion of direction on what we should do, in terms of, and I gave you several options. So based on that direction today will be also what we're doing. So the point of this time and material is to make sure we don't have a gap in service while we continue forward. If we use all that 100,000, which Member Tegmer and I don't believe we will while this is worked through, and we would come back to the board for an additional amount.
Okay. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor state aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Next item is going to be DuPage ETSB 911 system design. You have anything, Linda?
I guess I do have a few things, and I'll unmute this time. So I think the first part of this discussion, we have the 60-day status report, and then I also will need direction on, I don't know, I would ask the state's attorney, do we back up to the previous item for direction on going forward radio maintenance, or take that under system design?
Back up where? Can you repeat that, Linda?
Sure. So we do, the staff still needs direction for the radio maintenance contract, the memo that they received. So do we take that under the resolution on the amendment, or do we take that under system design? We didn't have a specific category for that. Or new business, old business.
Where is it on the agenda? What you're referring to?
It doesn't have a specific item. I just assumed that we were going to talk about it more in depth before everybody just passed the time material amendment. Just never quite know.
I don't think you need to back up and go under the amendment. I think you could just deal with it under the system design section. I think it fits in there.
Okay. So, Mr. Chairman, do you want to take that first or the 60-day report? Or the membership?
Whatever you want. We want to do the 60-day report?
I don't know what questions people have. I think the memo, there are several, let's start with the radio memo then. There are several options. The first option is releasing the radios that the ETSB owns into the system, which is where we were. And so we would be going back to where we started. There's benefits to that. There's negatives, which are outlined in the memo. The second is to further amend the IGA beyond what we did this morning, which is what Member Tegmeyer and I are working through. The third option, based on current cost of what we're paying today, would be to employ ETSB staff directly. The third option, sorry about that for the typo, would be to complete an RFP in which either DUCOM could be also a bidder. And then the final option is there is a service called Radio Service Manager from Motorola. We'd have to work with the state's attorney and procurement to see if that service is close enough in design where if you elected to go for bid process, that Motorola would have to participate in that manner. So that's kind of where we're at this point. I was just seeking direction from the board on, based on the information provided in the memo and history, what your thoughts were.
I think that we should put it out to bid. I think that I know DUCOM's done a great job, but I think we need to go through a due diligence process and consider putting it out to bid and get the best deal that we can using the taxpayers' money, not only the best deal, but also the best service. And I think it's just the right thing to do. That's my opinion.
I would agree with Mike. I think that would probably be the best route to go with that. I would also, for what it's worth, think that having somebody who's outside, maybe not so beholden to our system, looking at it as opposed to, having somebody internal. DUCOM has done a good job, but I think having somebody outside that we have a little bit more control over might be a little bit better in that regard.
I also think it's important, if we're going to put it out to bid, that the RFP process, who's going to write that RFP, has to be taken into consideration to make sure not only the technical specification is written correctly, but to make sure that there's no conflicts.
I agree with all those prior comments, and I'd like to just add one more, is that I think in the interim, while an RFP is being developed, I think it would be prudent for the staff to continue some dialogue with Motorola to get some more information, at least as to what the system manager option might be, because I think, as Linda was saying, system manager for Motorola could be part of an RFP, or it could be an alternate solution to what we might ask for in an RFP, or it's an enhancement to an RFP. So I think some more research, at least while we're developing the RFP, would be helpful. I'm not sure that means asking for a price proposal, but I think it means at least understanding what that service could look like and how it differs from what we might have in an RFP.
Reaching out to, well, so the only thought I have is from, I understand I mean, Ducom's been doing this since the system was involved. We were involved in the beginning part of the system. We've been involved all the way along. Both having the knowledge of writing the RFP and issuing an RFP. I hear what people are saying. I think we have to be very clear and delineate that, because you can't reach out to Motorola if they're one of the people that could bid on it as well.
Correct.
So I understand, want to make sure that the ETSB makes sure that this is fair, but this is something that we've done it through other renewals before. We're staffed and expecting to do it, and it would be a big impact to us if there's a change. We just want to make sure then, if you want to head down that path, how do you identify that? Because I can't have my staff help write the RFP. That wouldn't meet what you're just saying, and you can't ask Motorola to do the same either.
Yeah, that wasn't my point, Brian. I'm not asking Motorola to write an RFP. I'm asking for the staff to research if there is a option, could be from Motorola or anybody else, that goes beyond what we're sort of currently doing under a DETR's maintenance contract. Is there, an alternate approach that Motorola or another provider might be providing that we would either include or not include in an RFP process? So they're not submitting a proposal, they're not submitting pricing. This is research to see what's out there in terms of service packages and that kind of thing. So it's a research project, not an RFP. And there could be others besides Motorola. I'm not sure if there's somebody else out there. Motorola's logical because Starcom is their system.
That's the dilemma. It's their system. So I think staff has to research it. And I know they'll do a good job doing it. And if they take it as far as they can and determine, there's outside consultants that could come in and do an assessment too. I know that costs more money, but if we really want a fair and objective look at what we're doing, we could contract with a consultant who could come in, do an assessment of the system and help us draft an RFP as well.
One comment on that: if Ducom is going to be bidding, well noted what was just stated, they cannot be part of writing this RFP, even though they have the intellectual knowledge of servicing this for many, many years. So that outside consultant would have to be an expert in that subject matter in order to make sure the RFP is written to spec and what is needed.
I agree with that.
Brian, is Ducom interested in participating? Has that been discussed?
Yeah, I mean, Ducom's interested in continuing to provide this level of service to the ETSB and our agencies. So.
I'm sorry, can I ask one other question? So we started talking a little bit about planning for the replacement of these radios in the future. And I think the time frame has been anything from 3 to 10 years from now. Does it make sense to incorporate into this assessment kind of a evaluation of the radios and a time frame, or do we have enough information to be able to make that determination ourselves? It's obviously the biggest purchase we have coming in the next 5 years, I think. Are we set up to be able to do that and make decisions?
I think we're working through that now. The board had asked for a plan and we're working through that. There was a little bit of future impact consideration in the DETR's memo that you got on the maintenance contract. And what we could do, the other question would be, when should we do it now with questions about the economy? You know, we've been setting money aside for this, but would this be the right time to spend it too, which is another question. And can we just continue to keep repairing radios for a while? So we're working on several different options and plans. I don't know, and I would ask Brian his opinion too, is whether or not those two things necessarily go together.
As far as how do we maintain the radios going forward?
Or just a plan for replacement if that's part of the maintainer contract. I mean, there's some, we're seeing more top assemblies, but overall, I'd have to say that all the users have taken very good care of their radios. So, hence we're 10 years down the road before we have to start thinking about this. So I don't know that the replacement plan is necessarily part of the maintenance plan, although they do somewhat tie together.
I think they tie together only in the fact that if you put off replacement, you will have more maintenance. So whether that's on the, T&M, like we're doing on the interim basis, that's already been approved, you could have more reasons to touch radios. That's why we had, the agreement that's been in place for, I think it's, Linda, you said it was a 5-year agreement, so it's been in place for 10 years. So that agreement, the 10-year agreement, has been in place, and we've been maintaining the radios, and we've been doing that not on T&M, so that number of touches or whatever number of times we fix an individual radio isn't counted. It's tracked, it's just not invoiced separate.
So the question, I agree with Brian, they are related, but I think for the foreseeable future, let's say, 3 years minimum, probably 5 years, I don't see these radios going away, and I don't see the need for maintenance changing all that much other than the points that Brian just made. So I think it would be safe for us to proceed with the RFP for maintenance, realize we're going to have these radios and devices for the foreseeable future. I think it's a related question, but I don't think one is dependent on the other right now. I think we could proceed on the maintenance side and in parallel work on whatever our replacement plan is. And as Linda pointed out, that could change for a variety of external factors, including the real economy, the perception of the economy, the perception making a big spend in a difficult economic time. I think those are all questions the board will have to deal with as we go forward.
Can I ask one other follow-up question? Do we have a time frame for what we're looking to send an RFP out for? Is it a 5-year contract, maintenance contract, a 10-year maintenance contract to be determined?
I would say to be determined, I would say anywhere from 3 to 5, just because that would give you an opportunity to go out and reassess, maybe 3 with option to renew. I'm getting the nod from the state's attorney.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, next item is going to be number 9, DuPage Justice Information System Project. Oh, okay, so got it.
So the direction with that one is 3B in essence, or the second 3 is what we've decided, right?
My understanding is RFP and work with the state's attorney and procurement to determine if the Motorola service, which I suspect it may be, would be part of that RFP process, or if it is in fact a different service for you to look at. I think I have enough to be dangerous.
Anything else, Linda? Should I go to the next one, just?
So now we're on 60.
Okay.
So I've had several board members say that they've started to work through these 90-some pages, and it was really somewhat challenging to decide what to include to give you a good enough overview of what had been happening versus where we're at without getting too technical, although some of you felt it was pretty technical. We did our best to to make it as readable as possible. And then one of the things that we did with that report too is we tagged it onto the initial preliminary report so that you could see, but we made the new sections a different color so that you weren't rereading things unless you wanted to. Tried to make it as simple as possible. I realize it's not an easy read. So basically that report has gone to the point of looking at the systems from the scope of work for the contracts, most of which were awarded in 2016. So we're measuring against the best practice at that time and what we have today. I think it's important to remember that we haven't really implemented everything. So this is, the system failures aside, this is something we would have, should have been starting to do at this point in the age of the system anyway. So while we have a good baseline from that and what I think the focus group, the tech focus group has done a good job of saying what they think the next steps should be. I don't think we're anywhere near done. And there is some good feedback in these reports to suggest that a third-party review of some of these systems or all of these systems may be warranted as well. I don't know if there's any specific questions I can answer at this point.
So Linda, in the 60-day report, there was a table that had a number of potential expenditures. Is that a recommendation? Are we going to see those as future resolutions? Where do those stand?
I think you've already seen one in the system monitoring not to exceed amount.
Right.
And the tech group will be looking at additional monitoring on some of these systems to enhance what we already know. So you've already seen one. And then as we move forward, we'll be bringing any other additional costs to you.
I guess request as you bring these forward, and I think I understood inherently what the advantage of system monitoring was, but as they get more specific, if you could, to the extent you can, quantify what the benefit of each of these is. What does it do for us? How does it help solve the concern the board members had on reliability and system outages? I mean, some are somewhat implied, but it may not be obvious to us lay people as to what the benefit is when you're spending this money. Thank you.
Okay, so a backup system memo would be helpful with more detail. I apologize for that.
No, I think when you bring them forward, each item, so that we understand the why as to what's the benefit of these and how does it tie back to the original request, which was, I think, how do we increase the reliability or reduce the outages on these major systems, right? That was the original task.
Yes.
Well, I'm sorry if I can jump in here and piggyback on that. I think in addition to that, I think what we would like to see, I'd like to see is an executive summary on what this report really means, what items are going to be the next steps on this, what purchases are needed and why. Again, I've just started looking at some of this and it's a lot to get through and it's over my head in many ways. So if you can help by providing kind of a summary of this and some recommendations, I think that's the executive summary that we need.
Okay.
Linda, one of the items you and I've discussed offline is that this is heavily a system analysis, so far heavily contract compliance related. When I look back at the number of failures we've had, a number of them have been, either people or process and not so much the systems themselves in many cases. And I know it's early in the process, but at some point, I think we need to, however we do it, whether it's an internal focus group or somebody from the outside, and I'm not advocating more consultant spend, but when we look at the failures, a lot of them are either human or process related, not necessarily the system itself. And many times those human errors and process failures are either directly by a third party, maybe the vendor, or something in cooperation with that vendor. So we can look at systems all day and monitor them all day, but if we don't solve the people and process issues, we're still going to have some of the same issues. So again, it's early in the process. I'm not being critical, but at some point we need to kind of get to that side of the equation, because otherwise we'll only have solved maybe a half or a third of the problem and the risk that we face. I know it's on your agenda. Just pointed out that we've got to get there at some point.
I guess if I can just piggyback on that one more time. Sorry, Jim, I keep jumping on your back here. I think also what I've seen is in many times these failures have been related to maintenance. So I think determining who's doing the maintenance and when the maintenance is being done is going to be a critical component of this too. So I don't have any of the answers there either, but I think that's got to be a subsection of this report and maybe the executive summary.
My last comment, I promise I'll shut up, is and it sounds like defensive of the staff, but not meant to be defensive, but I think, for all the board members' benefit, we need to think about this as, we own some systems, but those systems are, heavily reliant on the vendors that provide them. And those vendors, including systems we haven't even talked about, like Motorola and Starcom, are heavily reliant on third parties they contract with. So if you think back on the Starcom failures we had, those were related to tollway fiber stuff that they contracted for. So we're sometimes 2 or 3 steps removed from the problem. So again, not making excuses for anybody, but I think we all need to recognize that very complex systems with multiple levels of people and players involved. And maybe to Linda's earlier point, we can only go so far, but we have to go as deep as we can to make sure that we've got as most reliable. Will we ever get to 0 failures? No. Will we ever get to 8 nines reliability? No. But we've got to do some things to try to minimize those risks. And I remember Fran's management of change, including during maintenance, is probably one of the key ones. And a lot of that goes back to the point I was making about people and process, not so much even the core systems themselves. So it is very complicated and involves lots of people and lots of players. So not diminishing the problem, just recognizing the staff has a huge challenge to try to wrap their arms around all of this. It is complicated.
And if I could add real quickly, I'll just piggyback on Jim and Mark. It is extremely complicated when you consider all that was done at the same time, 2 new facilities, a brand new CPE system, fire station alerting, switching to Comcast to build a back end network. It is extremely complicated, and in some cases, you have a lot of people involved, external contractors that are going to make changes, not realizing that what they can do would have an adverse reaction on another system. There's where some of the gaps need to be closed. So in terms of exploring network monitoring, often referred to as NOx, I can give you a little bit of a high level overview on what they do and how they operate. I've used them. We currently use them today. In a lot of cases, they could immediately identify a problem before it becomes a bigger problem, and in often cases, remedy the problem before it becomes a problem. They will also make the immediate notifications to the necessary stakeholders who are involved with some of these systems, i.e., we have an AT&T system that is managed by Motorola. They can make calls to Comcast and begin remedying situations. So at a high level, there is value in these centers. You have someone, they put systems in place that can monitor almost our entire architecture 24/7, if that makes sense.
Can I also go on record real quickly and say that I don't know, this is not a time to get into deep discussion, but this came up during the strategic planning concept that we talked about with the future, having some sessions to talk about governance and intergovernmental agreements and those types of things. I'm not sure if it's realistic to assume that the ETSB staff is going to be able to have all the expertise for all these systems moving forward. And I think we got to look at or be willing to consider using ACDC expertise, using DUCOM expertise, using the county sheriff's office PSAP expertise to manage all of this. And that's where I think this board is going to have to play a role in deciding what the best model is moving forward. So that's a big broader discussion, but I think it plays a part in this whole topic.
Speaking to member Franz, I'm not sure how much involvement DUCOM techs or Sheriff's Office techs or ACDC techs can have on the system. They're pretty busy doing their day-to-day tasks, let alone working on system issues. And quite frankly, I prefer the vendor and their techs to work on their system.
Let's have the debate begin.
Let's
I
do it.
understand that. I understand that philosophy. We got to figure it out as a group.
Yep.
Should we consider? I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, Mike. I would concur with D on that one, especially from a standpoint of techs, even here at the sheriff's office. They're way too busy for that too. I would think that the vendor should be doing that, not our techs.
If I could just weigh in, I think part of what's happening here, and I expressed concern about this before, in reading some of the notes, and it is a lot, and unless you entirely understand it, and I don't, but I understand a lot of it, there's one instance where we have an AT&T system, Motorola made a change to it. It involved a DNS entry, which wreaked havoc on the system, which I don't think that tells me Motorola was not in the know, nor consulted with the manufacturer about making these changes prior to it, and didn't think about consulting with Comcast. And that's just one of many examples of what happened here. So there does need to be a level of accountability with the vendors and making sure that they actually know what they're doing. In some cases, you have a tech that's just going to show up and make a change, not considering the adverse impacts it can have on other systems. So, I might recommend we form a committee. I think the PSAPs do need to be involved. I don't know if their techs have to be involved, but definitely to member Franz's point, collaboration needs to be had with the stakeholders to determine the best way to go forward and what that best way is. But it is challenging when you have all these new systems in place, and there does have to be a great amount of communication at the vendor level with all the vendors when changes are being made. And I can tell you that's likely where a lot of the gaps are occurring, is vendors not communicating with the other. And so there needs to be some direction, I think, to ETSB staff and with some input from at the PSAP level, whether that be the directors or the tech people. But I think there needs to be collaboration. Some of these changes have to be made immediately. They can't wait for discussion. But I think other changes can be discussed and vetted with all the stakeholders, to include the external vendors where these systems touch each other.
Do you have anything else, Linda?
I guess my question for Member Tillman would be, when you say a committee beyond the tech focus and the CAD focus committees?
I don't know if it's beyond it. I'm hearing that from some of the PSAPs, two of them at least, ACDC and the Sheriff's Office, that their techs do not have time to, contribute. When I say that, it's not a knock on them. It's that they're busy. But at some level, there has to be some involvement, I think, with some of those experts who know the systems. In my experience, I've seen staff sometimes know the system better than some of the technicians that come out. I mean, some of the equipment that the ETSB did purchase is pretty new, and I would argue sometimes new to even that technician who likely just received training not too long ago. So, if I'm not involved with those committees, the CAD committee or the tech committee, but when system changes occur, I'm not sure what kind of communication is had at the technician level to involve the PSAPs. I don't know if that happens or if it doesn't happen. I'm not in the know. I can't answer that question. I would put that question to the PSAP directors or the PSAP reps. We have 3 of them on there. Do they feel like enough communication is being had with their staff when these changes are being made?
I can only speak for ACDC. Whenever there's a vendor here doing work, my technical staff is working with that vendor. They're working hand in hand. So I'm comfortable at the tech level through the committees that all of the 3 PSAPs know what's happening and what they're touching and what they're working on.
I guess what I'm asking, Dolores, is do your tech people feel confident that the representative that's at the facility has appropriately communicated across the board to the other PSAP directors and, when needed, external vendors for some of the changes that are being made?
I don't think that that's done at that level, Mike. I think that, and I don't know if Matt Toish is on, but I think that everything's communicated through Matt before anything is done on a system-wide level.
Got it.
All right, as usual, I'm gonna ask a question because I'm trying to figure out exactly what we're being asked to decide. But it seems to me that there's some discussion regarding whether or not we should have 2 PSAPs in the sheriff's office, 3rd PSAP, and ETSB interact with these vendors and all the different people that adjust the system, or whether or not we should have, and it sounds like 2 of the PSAPs anyway don't have the staff to do that, or whether or not we should have 1 entity doing that for everyone, which would be, I would assume, ETSB. Is that what we're talking about here?
I think that that's partially what you're talking about, because you have several philosophies. DUCOM has a full complement of technical staff. All the other 17 PSAPs in the old system worked off of 1 tandem, configured the system, locked it down, didn't make that many changes. DUCOM operates a little bit differently. So you also have to marry the question of you're spending almost $4 million a year, or probably better, in maintenance for the vendors to maintain their systems. So what is the level that you want PSAP and ETSB staff to be trained and working in? Because the more people working in the system, the more opportunities there is for human error. To Member Tillman's point on the CPE, that was Motorola using what's called smart hands, or an AT&T rep making changes in the system. Those are people who do this all day long, and they made a mistake. So at what level do we want to have duplication of service, or are we looking to eliminate duplication of service? And that's the question. Are we all going to have to change a little bit? Are we all going to have to go in a different direction? If we're paying for staff that is doing things that we're paying a vendor to do, should we be doing that? If there's gaps in that service, then we should identify that and come to an agreement, because we have people operating a little bit differently, and then that does cause some challenges in the system.
I would assume 30 years ago, when this whole consolidation thing started, that every dispatch unit for a police department or fire department had the person on staff to sort of oversee everything. So I guess my initial reaction is that I thought the purpose of consolidation was to eliminate the overlap of staff that do the same thing at different PSAPs, and have 1 entity that does that, because that would be a reduction in the number of people you need, and would also be a reduction in the overall cost to implement and maintain the entire system. Am I missing something on that, or is that the way it's been going, for the direction that everything's been going for the last 30 years?
Grant, if I can speak up. So I think historically, as Linda was talking about the 17 PSAPs, working there, DUCOM's always been a little different. We've been different since we were started. We were different before. We operated 15 years before 911 and 15 years before the ETSB. We've had technical staff from the very beginning. We did our own radio work. We've done our own IT work. prior to the CAD launching, I think it's important for all the board members to understand that prior to the CAD launching, while the CAD was always a ETSB system, the old CAD was sort of self-maintained for the most part by ETSB staff. For once, there was 2 CADs. So we used to have a sheriff's CAD that was set on the ETSB side, and it was supported all of the PSAPs on one CAD, and then there was a second CAD at DUCOM. It was duplicative, but the DUCOM sign was maintained by DUCOM. When we moved together with this project, one of the things that was done was to move into one system that became automatically a shared system. There's a lot of efficiencies with that, but the ETSB staff is now supporting DUCOM and the other 2 PSAPs. That's been a change. Linda and I have had many discussions. It's a change for our staff. We work with different responsibilities. It's been a major change for my staff that are used to being involved. We are not now, DUCOM doesn't have direct involvement with all of the different vendors. We work with the ETSB staff that involves. So what Dee said is true. When something's happening, it's usually Matt at the ETSB that's telling all 3 PSAPs what's going on with the maintenance on. I mean, that's just the history. I don't know that that's totally relevant to to where we head next. The tech team, since these outages in January, has worked together. They've asked questions. They're represented by people from all PSAPs to try to get the next solutions and things like that. You know, we feel we have resources that can help. So I think that that's not, I'm not shying away from that. Linda and I have worked for how do you do that, but how do you do that in a shared system? To the point that has been discussed, there's things out there. I think the AT&T CPE issue, we all have to understand is different, because I think that would have happened no matter what, because that's a system that has very, very rarely has PSAP personnel maintaining into the 911 system. That's generally always a maintenance contract with a vendor. CAD systems and other systems is where PSAP personnel have more involvement. So I think in any 911, I've managed 3 911 centers, and any 911 center I've worked at, what happened with the CPE and the 911 system could have happened in the exact same way. In other words, the vendors, the people involved, the AT&T techs, the companies involved, that could have happened at any point, anywhere. So I don't think that has anything to do with this discussion. The question is, how do we support the rest of the systems? Fire station alerting, DUCOM had fire station alerting before the Purvis project. We supported it with our techs. Now it's supported by a contract with the vendor under the ETSB. All of that's been a communications and a process for our staffs. I think where the tech team's been and working on this, we've seen improvements. My staff's been involved in working with the ETSB staff and ACD staff and the sheriff to get these results that Linda's putting in front of you. I think the question is how best to proceed moving forward.
I mean, what I'm asking is, because I'm sort of new to all this, or maybe it's gone over my head in past meetings, but it seems to me that DUCOM has got staff that's reviewing certain things, and they've always been doing that, but the other 2 PSAPs don't have the staff that's doing that. So the question would be, does DUCOM want to continue doing that? Do they think there's some value to that? And if so, why don't the other 2 PSAPs do it? Or the question would be for DUCOM, if the other 2 PSAPs do it, why does DUCOM do it? So.
I think you have to get, I mean, I understand your question. I think you have to get into what it is you're talking about, because there's programming and things like that that are done. I mean, Dolores and ACDC and the sheriff's office do things into the systems, and they maintain different parts of the stuff. So that's there. The question is do they, and Dolores, I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but what I heard you say is you're not looking for more responsibilities, but we have responsibilities in the system. At DUCOM, the majority of those responsibilities are put on IT staff, but not all of it, because we have telecommunicators reviewing GIS issues and different things like that. So it takes a lot to provide feedback and to keep these systems going. And the ETSB staff is the funnel that's collecting all of that information. I think everyone, I don't think there's redundancy in operations. I think everyone's got a role. The question is, you know, I don't know what the exact question was we're looking for, but to maybe Mark's point is, you know, are there other ways to look at doing this? I don't know.
Are we being asked to make some type of decision today on this, or is just informational? Yes.
I think this is a preview of what Mark wanted. He wanted to debate.
Oh, and this isn't the first time we've had this debate. I mean, this discussion's come up over and over again since I've been on the board, and it really comes down to control, in my opinion. And I can appreciate where DUCOM's at, having this technical staff and expertise that they do have in managing the systems for many, many years. Change is difficult when you no longer have that control. So that combined with the new systems we put in place, I think it is very important that you do have one single point of control. Currently, that's ETSB. And the reason I think that's important is because the ETSB has to make sure that whatever changes are made to any of the systems are not adverse to any of the PSAPs or any of the first responders. Because if those changes aren't thoughtful or methodic and carefully planned, a change made to one system to benefit a PSAP or first responder agency could be adverse to other PSAPs or first responder agencies. And that's why it's important, in my opinion. It's an ETSB system. The ETSB has an obligation to provide 911 call handling to the PSAP. That's our job. And it should be the ETSB's job to do that. Again, I think what we need to take into consideration is we did a lot. We built 2 brand new PSAPs. We bought all this new equipment. It certainly was the right thing to do. I could tell you, I said this at a board meeting a couple months ago. Quite frankly, I'm shocked that there hasn't been more mistakes because I realized the amount of projects that were in flight and came together at the same time. So it is a debate that keeps coming up, and that's kind of where I was going with a committee, is an internal committee at our level to flush this out and come to an agreement on how this needs to be handled, because this is not the first time we've had this discussion. And I think it will continue to come up. I think it will continue to come up when there are system outages because, one of the things that's challenging, and I hope the board members, I'm giving you this explanation so you can put yourself in the director's positions. When there is an outage, it's not the vendor that has to deal with the customer screaming. It's the directors that have to deal with the customer screaming, whether that be the general public, a village manager, a police chief, or fire chief. It's the directors that are going to take it on the chin. They're going to take a beating. So that's what I'm talking about in terms of a committee is, this issue keeps coming up. And we got to determine what the best route is. And my opinion is that the ETSB needs to have control. And we got to support it as a team.
Mike, what you just said, I think it should be a single point of control, ETSB, from a tech standpoint too. I'd even go one step further. If we need to give more support to ETSB to ensure that happens, let's give them the support. And if they need another person, I know that's not popular, give it to them. Point of control. It all funnels through them. They've done a good job, and I support it.
And I'll be on the counterpoint of that then, Joe. I don't know if that's the right answer. I don't think the ETSB, or excuse me, the PSAP directors want control because they are control hungry. I think they want control because the members that are paying for that service are demanding that. And even those two systems are different. AC/DC doesn't have members per se, whereas DUCOM has members that are voting members and have to give direction and in order to make decisions. So not only do we have 2 different technical support models, we've got 2 different governance models at the PSAP level. So I am not a proponent of giving ETSB more staff at this point. Someone's got to prove to me that that's the right way to go, because we're trying to reduce costs, and that doesn't help in that regard. So there's a lot to work out here. We've done a lot of consolidation in a short period of time, and kudos for everybody getting on board and doing that. ETSB has led the effort, but it's been all hands on deck to get us this far. But now we've got to figure out what the next 15 years are going to look like. And I don't think there's an easy answer out there.
Well, then I need to be brought up to speed as to what Mark knows about how everybody's governed by different directors or agencies or oversight boards. I mean, I don't know if I need a memo from somebody about that. Or I could-
I would suggest we have to schedule some workshops before our meetings and start getting into this. I still feel like we're being asked to know a lot and not getting a lot of time to actually discuss it as a group. We've got 4 or 5 new members on here. And I think we just got to roll up our sleeves and try to figure this out together as a group. And I support Mike's idea of maybe a work team or something if necessary, but I don't even know if we need that right now. I think we got to get everyone on the same page of what the facts are and then go from there.
Oh, I agree with me needing more information. So education somebody can give me would be great.
If I could just,
We can start with that. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, Member Ranhan.
if I could just say, surely this is not the only situation in the country, where groups have been asked, is it this control or this? I mean, can we see what other jurisdictions have done in this regard, or is this a very particular issue?
We can, and there are different models. I think, Member Eckhoff, we can get you additional information. The 3 PSAPs govern differently, but one thing I think that everybody has in common is this is about the dispatch and the citizens who, they're paying $1.50 per device for 911 surcharge. They're paying property taxes. So whatever, even if we get $14 million a year from surcharge, this is still with all the consolidation that we've done, a $25 million a year operation. So that means the balance of that cost comes out of the general funds of the municipalities and the fire districts to support that. And frankly, God forbid you get in an ambulance, then you got to pay as a citizen for that service too. So we are now at the point, having deployed 2 brand new buildings and these new systems, of looking at what's the next step. How do we become more efficient? A lot of DuPage, ETSB, and DUCOM are the models for the state of Illinois. There's language in state statutes based on what we've done here. People are looking at what we've done in terms of how we've accomplished this. And nationally, there are different issues as well as to how the state statute governs certain things. But again, I think the biggest issue is it's how we speed that dispatch and how we become more efficient in doing that. And I think technically we're right there aside from the system failures. So defining where we go next will be the key. And we can certainly, Member Eckhoff, get you the outline of how those 3 PSAPs operate differently.
And when I used to talk about, and I'm still talking about, fire district and municipal consolidation, the whole goal was provide a better service at a lower cost. So, I mean, that's at least what I would be looking at, regardless of what the discussion was, is we have to maintain public safety, enhance it if possible, and reduce the cost. So,
I think we all can agree on that.
yay, we got an agreement.
If I could make a recommendation, I heard 2 thoughts. One was better understanding of how the PSAPs are governed and operated, and maybe the corollary to that is how the technical systems are managed. And then I heard Member Relhan's request for some comparative data from other ETSBs. Could that be the subject of a workshop at the next meeting? Just a kind of high level overview.
I guess all 3 PSAPs would send us a little note as to how they're governed. And
I mean, I think Linda staff knows it already. I mean, I think it's a quick summary, but
yeah,
however you want to gather the information, but so everybody has the same foundation. I guess if we could start with those 2 things as again, it could be done in writing, but maybe a workshop where we could discuss it afterwards, just to get the ball rolling. Because if we don't have a good foundation to know what the other models are and where we're starting from, then it's hard to decide where you want to end up. So just a suggestion.
Jim, the only thing I would say with that, and that's more for Julie, is I think what Linda was trying to say as far as the model that we've done, I think in Illinois, DuPage is such a model of how we do things. I don't think you're going to see a lot of other relevance. And then when you leave Illinois, the problem is when you leave Illinois, you leave how states are funding their 911 systems. So then it becomes apples to oranges pretty much everywhere else. I mean, most dispatch operations, I mean, Illinois has got more consolidation than most other states. So the only other states you really focus on are those states with that type of consolidation, which is going to be like Indiana, Ohio, that has state mandated consolidation laws. You know, California operates extremely different than us. New York State, Pennsylvania, you know, they operate extremely different than us, and their agencies operate differently. You know, you're going to go into Pennsylvania where there's still, you know, 100 volunteer fire companies in every county. That creates a different dispatch need and stuff like that. So I'd be happy to explain some of the other systems around us, you know, in Illinois. And Linda knows all of that from her work in the state and all the different systems. I just don't know that you're going to get that much relevance. So the question is, what do you spend your time on? I think, to Member Conley's point, I mean, I think if more members need the facts, we should get the facts out there is the biggest thing. If comparables are there, I just wouldn't want to spend a whole bunch of time, because I think we are. I don't know, Linda. I mean, I'd reach into you of like, what else are we going to be able to share immediately from a comparable point of view?
It would be tough because, you know, even our vendors say this is, in terms of system architecture, one of the, if not the most complex thing they're doing. So if you're talking about overall governance, you know, there's a couple of ways we can talk about it and maybe clean that up for you too. And then start with some basic information and going back to how PSAPs operate, how this diagram works. Because it's even different within the state. If you look at Northwest Central, which is the next comparative largest consolidated center, it's one system, it's its own ETSB. It becomes part of a county system. So, you know, there's even when we get to that point, there's differences. So, which was inordinately complicated at the state level too, figuring out surcharge. So we can come up with some system information. But I would also suggest that we need to, you know, basically police the community as is, not as how others do it. So we're at the point, I think, where we figure out what's best for the community and how do we get there and how do we marry up what we're already doing or transition to or from what we're doing now into other models or service levels.
I would agree with that. I mean, maybe the first, and I always thought DuPage County was the leader in providing this type of service throughout the state, because it seems in the years I've been on the county board, it seems like we're usually leading in various areas. So the first fact that we obtain may be that there isn't any way to compare, you know, our apple to another apple because everybody else out there is different. That's the first thing we need to learn and know. If there's if somebody's got an idea, they know of a different ETSB somewhere else that is comparable, you know, they can send somebody a note and let us know about that. But if the first fact is nobody else is really all that comparable, so we have to figure it out ourselves, then that's, you know, we need to know that too.
Yeah, I support what Member Tegmeyer said and Linda said. I mean, I think DuPage is the leader, and I think you're going to be challenged to find anyone else who has the same dynamics that we're dealing with and the complexity. And the complexity being that this is a county ETSB. Yes, there are other county ETSBs, but this county ETSB has done something special. They were the first to do it. There's others in the state that are now following suit, but I can tell you, my opinion is the DuPage ETSB is kind of pioneering the way in the state. There's other states like Member Tegmeyer mentioned, state of Indiana, their consolidation was extreme. One PSAP per county, period, end of story. That was it. That's what the state did. And I think in the state of Indiana, the state controls the 911 funding exclusively. There is no trickle down to an ETSB level. And you know what? The state of Indiana had a lot of problems doing that. I mean, they had a lot of service delivery complaints, especially in the more urban areas in Northwest Indiana. So, but if we need to prove that out, I would support that as well. But I can tell you, I think you'd be challenged to find a fair comparison.
Mike, I agree with you. My point was that there are different service models. There are ETSBs that provide more services than DuPage ETSB. I'm sure there's ETSBs that provide less. How does it hurt to look at a few of those and say, here's some other models? Kind of goes to member Fran's points. What's the right organization design going forward? It can't hurt to look. That's my point.
Well, I would agree with that. I would agree with that, Jim.
Anything? Good for Dugas. Number 9.
I don't have anything beyond what's on the monthly report, but we do have Dave Jordan and Don Carlson on if there are any system questions for the Justice Information System.
I have a broad question. I understand how we got here with Hexagon being a combined contract with CAD and the police record side of it, which is a huge portion of the contract. What is the go forward? I mean, we're seeing tons and tons of reports about DeltaWorks reports of open items and that. Where does this end up in the next 6 months? Are we the ETSB just a maintainer of the contract? Are we somehow in an enforcement role with the vendor? Are we, we see reports from the PRMS committee. What's the go forward with the Hexagon contract as it relates to the I'll call it the police record side or FBR side of this contract?
Linda, I'm not sure if this is is it a question of, this is Don Carlson, by the way, County CIO, a question of how the contract relates to the ETSB, or I guess I'm not understanding the question.
Sorry, Don, let me make it simple. What is the ETSB's role related to the Hexagon contract and specifically the FBR side of the contract, not the CAD side of the contract? What's our role going forward?
Got it. I think, Linda, that's I think maybe more of your question than mine. Sorry.
No, you're not. I think, so ETSB is the contract holder. All of this comes under, so FBR, report writing, all of that is under one contract with the ETSB holding that contract. State's Attorney Berlin allowed that to happen because there was a reimbursement component and a method based on the intergovernmental agreements and the bylaws of the Oversight Committee, a method with which those users would start to fund their own costs. So they're setting aside an equipment replacement schedule of approximately $3 million so that at the end of this contract, or that ETSB is going to be out from under funding any of the RMS costs or the portions which are not allowed currently by state statute for 911 surcharge. So that's how this was all structured. So the role where RMS is concerned and FBR is really as contract holder, but there are systems, the MAP being the biggest one, where CAD and all of, because it's a suite of software where they work together, pull from the same information. So we're always going to have a bit of a relationship, an open marriage, so to speak, of between these two parties, because it's the same system, so that we work together. And earlier, one of the members said, so we don't, impact the service level or one agency making a change that's going to impact others. So maintenance and some of those other things carry over. Interfaces are another example of that. We will always be having that discussion. ETSB has a seat on the board of the PMRS Oversight Committee, and that's basically because of the contract holder, but doesn't really make any functional decisions other than reporting to that board and answering to that board for anything that is that we are technically doing. But Dave Jordan and Don Carlson's team they have team members in place to manage all of that now. So it's just a partnership in that regard.
So that's helpful. So paraphrase that. So if going forward, we saw tons of information from Delta Works, and we know there's lots of issues still on the FBR side and police records and all that. But do I understand it correctly that that's between Don and Dave, their teams, and PRMS? That's their responsibility to manage, other than the interface issues that you just described. And basically they're coming to us saying, hey, we've got a problem with Hexagon. We need you as contract holder to exert some leverage. Or is there some expectation that the ETS board is providing some oversight on this, on that side of the contract? I just want to understand what our role is going forward.
So Don Carlson's team, Dave Jordan's team has their own set of technical people at Hexagon, and they're working directly with them based on the size of that system. So we ETSB, unless it's a joint system or something crosses over, we're not helping them or making decisions in that regard. If the PMRS committee said, we want to make a change, if there was a recommendation from the users and they wanted to add or make a change to the contract, it would be as an advisory board, a recommendation to ETSB, and then we would do a change order to that contract. And because those are their costs. Likewise, anything that comes up where there's a cost incurred for those users, we go back to that RMS oversight group for approval and recommendation, because it's going to be an out-of-pocket cost to them.
Thanks. So I view it as pretty much a hands-off role, other than those items you just clearly identified. Is that a fair take on it?
Chief, if I can jump in, Linda, I think the other piece of this would be that this ETSB board should be listening to the RMS or PMS board and making sure that we're supporting them in their efforts. Linda and I both sit on that, and if there's approving that final payout is going to come up on this board to make a determination, we should be listening to that committee as they advise us. Is that fair, Linda?
Yes.
Thank you. That's helpful.
You have anything else, Linda? Or Dujas?
I don't know if Dave has any updates to some of the open items that were on Mike Galvin's report. I don't know if Thomas, he may or may not. That report was pretty new.
I'm here. It is pretty new. Most of the open items that we track on the RMS side are you'll see them in our RSA, our resident system admin status. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
Yep.
Which is in the report. I know there's a we're trying to make the delineation between the RMS side and the CAD side. We're also working with Mike Galvin to resolve some of the remaining issues for the project closeout, which you'll be getting more information from him on that. But other than that, if anybody has any questions, I'm here to answer them. I can always be available for you.
And I think to Member Conley's question, you're getting those reports in your monthly report because you have a final payment. So you do have a vested interest in what's occurring.
Okay. Ready for old business? All right, moving on. The next item on the agenda is old business. Does anybody have any old business? Okay. Hearing none, we'll move on to new business. Does anybody have any new business? Okay, hearing none. I am advised we do not have any matters under executive session. Our next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, June 9th at 9 o'clock.
Just have one question.
Subject to change.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
I just quickly, we're still in this scenario. Is this time slot work for everybody if we have to move off of the Tuesday date? Or could you pencil it in if we're still in a Zoom mode? I feel like this gives you more time to talk about some of these issues because I know the county board members, those meetings have run long, Zoom meetings take a little bit longer, and this has given you some time to have some fruitful discussion. So can you pencil this time in case we need to move it off, if that works for everybody?
Yes,
Yep, works for me.
works for me. Yep.
Thank you. So that would be June 8th, Monday, June 8th at 9 a.m.
Mhm.
Can I ask one quick question? While Dave Jordan's still on the phone, I'm not sure when the PRMS group is going to be meeting next. If you can maybe get something out to us on that would be helpful.
The next meeting is June 16th. I'm not sure how that's going to be held at the moment, but June 16th is the next scheduled meeting.
Great, thank you.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion adjourned.
Nay.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Aye.